Y'all, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be taking a look at the Jazwares Pokemon Select Golisopod figure. Golisopod first appeared in Generation 7, which took place in the Sun and Moon era, which was around 2016. They are a dual type bug water Pokemon, and their evolution line is Wimpod to Golisopod. Their shell is as tough as diamonds. They have retractable claws that can cleave seawater or air in two. They have retractable claws that can cleave seawater or air in two. They're known as a meditative Pokemon, but will do anything to win a fight. And according to Bulbapedia, they have a natural predator and or slash prey in the Pokemon Grapple Lock. So there's that. This figure comes in the standard Pokemon Select box, and it looks great, but we're not here to talk about that. Let's go ahead and get this figure free from its plastic prison and see what we think about Golisopod. All right, y'all, fresh out the box, this figure looks fantastic. I mean, it looks like it jumped off the screen and onto the shelf. Like that's just, I don't know, it just looks great. The size of it is imposing. Now, granted, a lot of that is just because the arms are pretty, they make it pretty wide, but still, I mean, there's just something about it that is kind of imposing and intimidating a little bit. But but it's spot on for the character design, and I love it because I was a big fan of this Pokemon's character whenever I was playing Sun and Moon, and yeah, I was real excited when I saw this figure getting announced for this line because that's what this line does really well is the bigger sized characters. And that lived up to what my expectations were that this figure would be sizable and look really cool, like just on a shelf and just standing there. Now, from just having it fresh out the box, I gotta say that the articulation, which I'll talk about more in a little bit, is present, and there's a lot of it, especially given this line that doesn't always have like the most articulation based on the character designs. But despite having a multitude of points of articulation, it's still kind of hard to get this figure in a lot of cool poses. But then again, I don't know that you necessarily need to because they just look cool on their own. So it's kind of like, okay, well, it just is what it is. But I'm glad that the articulation's there. And like I said, I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But it is something that I found kind of cumbersome just messing with here as a first thought. That aside, the look, the sculpt, and the paint on this is fantastic. I love the color that they molded the off-white parts in. They look really cool, and they contrast really well with the different shades of purple and then the gray pincers, I guess is what you'd call them, or fingers. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know too much about what bugs are called anymore, but the colors look great on this figure. And, again, that's mostly due to the design of the character, but I think Jazwares is doing an excellent job with this line and really bringing these characters to life in plastic form just really well. So yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with the size. The heft is there, so it does feel substantial. However, I feel like it's going to have some difficulty standing on its own. It's not impossible to get it to do it, but it does feel like it's going to be an issue going forward. But we'll see later in the review if I still have that issue. But thankfully, we get a giant figure stand to go along with Golisopod, and it attaches on the left back side, I guess, of the figure. And yeah, that really helps to stabilize it. So, all right, so let's talk about the articulation you're going to get out of Golisopod. So he's got a lot of articulation all over the place. I'm going to try to get it all, but it's also in weird places and weirdly done. I guess the closest thing to his head would be his ab crunch, for lack of a better term. He's got a swivel there, but he's also got a joint there, so he can move a little. He can stand up kind of straight, I guess, or at least as straight as he can, and he can go down quite a bit, but that's about it. And he can go left to right, but like I thought this was keeping him from being able to go 360 there, but I think there's something else inside the body that's doing that and preventing that. His arms have multiple points of articulation. They have joints here, and they don't have him in the actual pincer. That's not a pincer, but the fang claw something. I don't know. I can't think right now. But he does have like elbow joints essentially in these, and shoulder joints in all four of these. And then he also has them in this one as well. It's just a little sturdier because it's thicker. And then he's got a joint here that's essentially like a wrist joint, and it's also got the 360 there because it's like his hand. Well, it's just, I mean, I guess that is really his hand. So then moving on down to his legs, he has some 360 swivel at the thigh, and he's got a little bit of extra wiggle room in there, I think, from being like in here and here, but it can go out a little bit but not much, and in quite the same, but it gets stopped because it actually is physically impeded by that. And then down to his knee, he's got a knee joint there, and he's got what I think is probably a peg in there, but it's on like an angle, I think, and somehow it makes it to where it gives him a swivel articulation, but it doesn't have a hinge in it, I don't think. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's very strange. He's got a decent amount of articulation, but it's like in weird places and just kind of not how you normally would think about it, or at least in my mind. But nevertheless, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is all the articulation you're going to get out of Golisopod. According to Bulbapedia, Golisopod stands at 6 foot 7 inches tall and weighs around 238 pounds. This figure stands at around 6.5 inches tall, and with its arms stretched out, it has a width of around 8 inches. And this figure weighs almost 11 ounces. So now let's see how they measure up to some other figures you might have in your collection. Here they are next to Marvel Legends Spider-Man and Power Rangers Lightning Collection Black Ranger with the Dragon Shield. Here they are with NECA's Alf and Jada Toys Mega Man. Here they are with Super 7's TMNT Ultimates Donatello and NECA's Return to New York 4-pack Donatello. Here they are with Storm Collectibles Sub-Zero and the NECA knockoff colored bandana Mirage Comics Donatello. Here they are with SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Build and Hasbro's Fortnite Man Cake. Here they are with McFarlane's DC Multiverse Clock King and Jada Toys Dhalsim. Here they are with Masters of the Universe Classics Cobra Khan and Figma's Samus. Here they are with Figma's Gloria and Marnie. Here they are with the Pokemon Bandai Model Kit Gardevoir and SH Figuarts Ash. Here they are with SH Figuarts Jesse and James. Here they are with an assortment of smaller Pokemon from Jazwares. Here they are with a slightly larger assortment of Pokemon from Jazwares. Here they are with the Snorlax Piggy Bank and SH Figuarts Blastoise. And here they are with Jazwares Pokemon Select Typhlosion and Greninja. I remember when Gen 7 was coming out and all the hype was coming out with the commercials and the leaks and everything like that. And I remember seeing Golisopod for the first time, and I thought, oh man, that's the Pokemon that I want on my team. Like, I'm so excited for that because it looks awesome. And sure enough, as soon as I got the game, I was like, all right, let me find Wimpod, let me level them up and evolve them. And yeah, Golisopod was awesome and just looked so cool. And yeah, I was just totally happy with it on my team and as a Pokemon and everything like that. It was awesome, and I wanted an action figure so bad and was so excited whenever they announced that they were putting this out in the select line, in the 6-inch scale select line. And yeah, absolutely excited about it because it needs to be this scale and it needs to be this. And I think that Jazwares did a fantastic job bringing this figure to life in plastic form. It looks amazing. It's an excellent representation of how the character looks in the game and is just able to encapsulate the same imposing feeling that the character does in the game, but like as an action figure. And even though I'm holding it in my hands, I still feel like it's looking at me and like being like, oh yeah, you're nothing. And I'm like, it's only 6'7" in the game. Like it's only 6'7" in the game. And I'm like 6'1". So like it's only like 5-6 inches taller than me. And still it feels like, I don't know, like if I tried to explain seeing this Pokemon like in the real world, like if I was in the Pokemon world and I was like one of the first people to like discover this Pokemon and I went to go tell everybody about it, whatever professor I was, sent out on the mission to find these Pokemon for, trying to describe this Pokemon, I would probably describe it way bigger than what it is. And it has that essence to it, if that makes any sense. Like it feels bigger than what it actually is. And that's really cool. And I love that about an action figure when it can do that. And yes, that's a lot of the design, but also like just being able to make the figure itself like replicate that is really cool. And I think Jazwares did a great job here. The figure looks amazing just standing on a shelf just by itself. It just looks really cool. It's very eye-catching and just is awesome. But it also looks really cool with the other Pokemon figures from this line, as well as the smaller figures that Jazwares has put out. And then also it works really well with the trainers that Figma and SH Figuarts have put out. And yeah, so that's really cool. And that's like a hallmark for me for these Pokemon, that like if they look good with across the board like that, then yeah, like just A+. Because having these figures, especially in Pokemon, a lot of them, if like you can have them to just be like, yeah, they're a representation of this character. They don't necessarily have to go with anything, but I just want this. Like a lot of the model kits are kind of like that way for me. But the figures, I kind of really want them to work with the rest of the figures from Jazwares, and then also the trainers from Figuarts and Figma. And yeah, Golisopod works extremely well on all of those fronts, and I'm very happy with that. The thing that surprised me, though, is the amount of articulation that this thing has. I was not ready, and I still think I'm finding more ways that this thing can bend and move that I just had no idea about, even when I did the articulation part. It just feels like stuff is new, even though I probably already knew about it. I'm like figuring out a new way to pose it with that articulation, and it's just bringing this figure to life and giving it like a lot of playability that, normally I don't expect from Pokemon, or I guess I should say that I give a lot of leniency in Pokemon in that area, because like, for instance, like Snorlax, like I don't need a super articulated Snorlax. I just need it to look like Snorlax and be really big. And so if you meet those two metrics, you're pretty much home free. And so, yeah, so that somehow transcends to some of the other Pokemon too. Like I don't need a lot of like finger articulation and things like that, even though on the Flygon one, it's really cool. But like sometimes it can ruin a figure. And yeah, still with this figure, no, they got articulation in all of the appendages, for lack of a better term. It's just really awesome. And that's above my expectation for Pokemon. And so I'm really glad Jazwares is doing that with these figures. The only downside, I guess, if you want to call it that, is that the figure does have an issue standing on its own. Thankfully, the flight stand, well, I guess it's a stand because this figure doesn't fly. So, or just stand, I guess we call it. I don't know. That sounds weird. But it definitely needs the help of the stand that is included with most of these figures, if not all of them, I think. And so, yeah, it doesn't take away from the figure because it's exactly how it's designed in the game and everything, but it is just something of note that like you're going to need to keep that with the figure pretty much always. But it still has some, with the stand included, you can get this figure into some really cool poses, given that it has to have the stand anyway, because sometimes with action figures, you don't want the stand there, but you want them to be in a cool pose. And so since you have to have the stand, it kind of mitigates that, I guess, if that's the right way to say that. You can have them kicking, and it's not necessarily stuff that they would normally do in general, but like it's still kind of neat to have them doing it. I don't know, it's kind of fun for me and adds to my appreciation of this figure. So yeah, I usually have mine posed like doing a kick or something, and yeah, just, I don't know, it just looks really neat. And all around, I am very happy with this figure. So yeah, if you're a Pokemon action figure collector, you definitely want to pick this up. I don't care what your preference is as far as Pokemon go. I think you will absolutely love this. Or if you collect action figures that look like bugs, this definitely is bug type and looks like a bug and is more menacing and scary and intimidating than it is creepy and like let's just, squash it now kind of bug. It's more like a, oh, that's awesome kind of bug. I don't want it in my house if it's alive, but it's cool to look at. And if I'm fighting other kids and their monsters, I wouldn't mind having it on my team. It kind of bug, So your mileage may vary with that, but I still think you'll be happy with it. Or if you happen to have a shelf dedicated to action figures who have very small feet for the rest of their larger frame, then you absolutely need a Golisopod on that shelf. All right, well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, hit subscribe. And let me know in the comments, were you a fan of Golisopod? Do you like their typing? Just tell me all your thoughts on Golisopod in the comments. And until then, else time.